On the Wire, in association with Ladbrokes.
It's On the Wire in association with Ladbrokes, and we have a really jam-packed show today. We're going to reflect on the Willie Mullins massacre of everyone else at the Dublin Racing Festival. But we're also going to hear from Darragh O'Keeffe, who picks up a load of nice rides at Naas on Sunday and has a really choice ride at Navan on Sunday, and has a really choice ride at Naas on Saturday as well. It's all ahead of us here and On the Wire. As I said, has some nice rides. We'll hear from him later on. Let's get to our panel, though. Same panel as we had last week ahead of all those Dublin Racing Festival revelations that we anticipated or otherwise. Nicola McGeady from Ladbrokes, how are you?
I'm good, yeah. Still recovering. It was a great 2 days. It was great to get out racing, but the crowds were incredible. It's just growing and growing, this festival.
Don, 20,000 people, give or take, a third of them British there on the Saturday. This is like the old days.
It is, Johnny, yeah. That was great. Like the atmosphere there, like when they paraded before the Irish Gold Cup, that to me that was great. But there was an appreciation there that we were here to see good horses. There were only 4 of them, but they packed deep around the parade ring, and there was a real buzz of anticipation around the place. Now there was a great atmosphere there for the weekend.
Yeah, and in fairness, Mark, the crowd was slightly down on the Sunday, but it's still a very big crowd. What was it like? Because we're not really used to this at Leopardstown these days.
Yeah, I think facilities-wise, there was a pressure point on some of them. I think that point's been flagged, and I hope that with a view to next year when we are getting people coming over, particularly a high percentage of British representation. Not on the track, unfortunately, but they did make their mark with the few runners they came with. But I think, that is something that has to be looked at. You look at queues for ATMs, queues for toilets, queues for getting a drink. Those are all things that have to be looked at. But I think overwhelmingly, people that came did enjoy it. It's not what everybody wants to see with one stable taking every Grade 1 race on the card over 2 days. But this is not a new thing. This is not something that should shock everybody. This has been coming for some time. This has been how it has been. So, that's a point that I'm sure the authorities are going to try and, look at. It's a difficult one to rectify. I thought in terms of track atmosphere, very good. But there are still things that do need to be tweaked just to make sure when people do come, they get the maximum experience.
But actually, let's get to the meat of the Willie Mullins debate, starting with you, Nicola, because Ladbrokes sponsored a race that turned into a match. Now, this is not ideal, but it was just one of these circumstances. 5 were declared. Corbett's Cross wasn't declared initially. 5 were declared. 3 of them didn't show up. 1 of them couldn't jump the last.
Yeah, listen, it's frustrating when you have a 2-runner race. There's no doubt about it, both Mullins horses. But, he didn't expect American Mike not to turn up. And obviously with so many British punters flying over, we can only hope that some trainers, take a punt as well and come over. So, those things are obviously sponsors out of your control. And these things happen. There's debate online about this being, the Willie Mullins show, and he's come under fire for it. But I just think, you can only take your hat off to the man. You can't blame Mullins for that. You can only admire him, and he puts us on the map across the water as well, and I think that should be celebrated. And I've seen Jane Mangan, she made a great point comparing Mullins to the likes of Serena Williams and Taylor Swift. You can't tell them to stop winning Grand Slams and awards. It's up to others to try and take them on, and and right now, yes, it's very hard to do it. So I think we celebrate Willie Mullins, and these things, it's frustrating when you have 2-runner races, but it's out of our control.
Yeah, I think Willie will love the Taylor Swift analogy as well. But just the whole thing, John, if Willie hadn't run these horses, and if he'd taken a Nicky Henderson approach to we're saving horses for Cheltenham here, Willie ran horses against better fancied horses. He had to tell owner A, listen, I like your horse, but owner B might have a better chance here, such as life. Nobody is actually obliged to send his or her good horse to Willie Mullins. They do it freely, and Willie made the festival, really.
Yeah, there are 100 debating points here. First of all, I agree with Nicola. Willie Mullins did it, and that 8 Grade 1 races, it's to be celebrated as a sporting achievement. As you say, Johnny, he ran his horses against each other, which was the first race, the Nathaniel Lacey race, and the Spring Juvenile Hurdle, and also the Irish Arkle, as it turned out. Paul Townend had a difficult decision to make in all those races. We didn't have a lot of evidence. So Willie Mullins, he runs the horses on their merits. They're there to beat each other, as we saw in the Faheen Chase, for example, at Limerick. And look, there's always a level of domination. It's a pyramid, isn't it? It's the best are the best, and then it's a pyramid flows down from it. And in all walks of life, when Dublin were winning all their All-Irelands, there was talk of splitting Dublin in two. What can we do about the Dublin dominance? And then they stopped at 6. And it's when Martin Pipe was dominant, when Michael Dickinson was dominant, Tom Draper won 7 Irish Grand Nationals in a row. So there's always a level of dominance at the top 1 or 2 or 3. And in any walk of life, in any sport or any entity, if one element is dominant, you kind of look and see, what you kind of root for the underdog. And we did, it was a pity Marine Nationale underperformed, found a 50, only went down by a head or a neck to Ile Teton. So, there and the Caldwell horses weren't there. So there were a couple of elements of play.
Just on that, Don, this is an extraordinary, if you're talking about the Gordon Elliott situation at the moment, there is an element of Gubu about this. How could you predict this happening? And then your star horse more or less ends up going to Paul Nicholls. Add that into the fact that Gordon had a relatively quiet DRF, but it's an extraordinary set of events at the moment.
Yeah, there was Willie Mullins. We know that he's the best trainer in Britain, or the best national hunt trainer in Britain or Ireland, and as well as that, a couple of elements conspired in order to create the 8 Grade 1s and the Grade 2 as well. He won 9 races in total. But look, of course, there was a dominance there, and it was an extraordinary dominance. But as Nicola says, it's an extraordinary sporting achievement for Willie Mullins. And yeah, look, we can look at ways, or the authorities can look at ways in which that can be changed. But like these protectionist measures, protectionist measures. You need to be careful when you start going down that road. I think when you start putting false elements in play in order to protect some element, bar it's a very, very short-term measure. I think that's a dangerous road to go down.
Nicola, we'll just get you to look up Gold Cup odds, but before that, just while you're getting the mark, Galopin Deschamps was flawless, was he not?
Yeah, he was the star of the show. Oh, sorry, are you saying to me or Mark?
Either or, actually. Nicola, you keep going. Here we go.
Yeah, no, listen, we know he's a star. He's a star of jump racing right now, and that looks set to continue. I have the Gold Cup odds here, Johnny, and after that performance at Leopardstown, he's now odds on at 4 to 5. It's not fun backing odds on shots in a Gold Cup, especially at this stage, but that's just how good we think he is. Although Martin Brassel's talking a big game now, fast or slow, and that's come for a bit of money during the week and it's been snipped into 5 to 1, but I just can't see past Galopin Deschamps at this point.
That's the thing, Mark. It's very hard to see him reverse the form.
I think he could get closer, but I don't think he'll beat him. I thought he ran a big race, and I think there is the potential as well with the way this horse is fast or slow and campaigned through his career. There's a big red circle around March, and I don't think you've ever got to see the best of him before you get to that time. So if he has been campaigned in a similar way, and there is another chunk of improvement to come, it gets him closer to Galopin Deschamps, because I think, we spoke about it, I think, in the last podcast, Galopin Deschamps being beaten in the John Durkan. I think you'd imagine it probably prompted Willie to maybe tighten the screws a little earlier maybe than you would have expected in this season. Huge performance at Christmas, wins again here. Like, he has been kept busy. Maybe the chance for him to get back to the mountaintop again, it's not quite the same as, the work he's put in this year compared to last year. I'd be more, if you thought which horse could improve most off the Irish Gold Cup, I think Fast or Slow is the one, but I just think Galopin Deschamps is the better horse. He's so hard to knock, and I love the fact he's versatile. I know that didn't work when they held him up in the John Durkan, but that was Trip, I think, that beat him in pace. Like, he can do it a variety of ways. I don't think he was all out here to win either. He's just a smashing racehorse, and I love Willie Mullins in the way he's campaigned this horse this season, and I love the way he's campaigned State Man.
Well, on that,
three times as many times as Constitution Hill this year. It's brilliant.
Here, actually, continue on. This is a State Man footage, but I want to bring you in on that, Mark, because I think he might have had a small little dig at another trainer or other trainers when he said, "Listen, I'm rocking up here with these horses at Cheltenham. They're going to be ready.
Yeah,
and if Galopin Deschamps don't win a Gold Cup, he's after winning 2 big races here.
Racing at least. Look, nobody's going to make any sort of assumption that he's in the same league as Constitution Hill for the minute, because what Constitution Hill did to him last season was out of this world, and it's one-way traffic. But I thought this was State Man's best performance yet. Bob Ollinger looked back to form for me. I thought State Man, he looks to be getting better and better and better. Whether it'd be good enough to beat Constitution Hill, I don't think so. But I've seen some betting without markets today that were, around the 1 to 3 type of territory for State Man without, or with Constitution Hill without. I can't see it. I think he's absolutely a clear second best. And as mentioned to someone the other day, absent makes the heart grow fonder. No, it doesn't. This horse, I think, is actually finally getting the respect he deserves because he's out and racing. Whereas even though Constitution Hill was brilliant at Christmas, it feels like there's nearly negativity around him because we haven't got to see him. So look, hats off to him for running him, and he put them away again really, really well.
Yeah, whilst we're talking to Don, maybe Nicola, you can rustle up a couple of champion hurdle odds. But Don, it's fascinating. Like if Constitution Hill weren't around, we'd be like, this is one of the best hurdlers I've ever seen.
Well, his only defeats were at the hands of Constitution Hill in the champion hurdle last year, and when he fell in his maiden hurdle, and on his first run in France before he came to Willie, when Bustleton beat him actually. But no, I think he looks like an even better horse this year than he was last year. Add that to the fact that Paul Townend was adamant, and Nicola will probably know this better than me, but from the very start of the season, before Stateman even appeared in the Morgana hurdle, he said that he didn't think he was at his best in the champion hurdle, that he didn't beat the others by as much as he thought he should have beaten them. Constitution Hill beat him by 9 lengths. The Stateman is a wee bit better, and if he wasn't at his best last year, does that allow him get a bit closer to Constitution Hill than he did? And Constitution Hill, didn't he scope poorly before the elite or the Unibet hurdle? So add all them into the mix, and it could be interesting.
I'd just be worried the Constitution Hill will be over the top come Cheltenham. Nicola, what's the odds, are we?
Yeah, I've just asked traders for betting without there, but look, it's just a pity for Stateman that he's in an era where Constitution Hill is around. And going back to my tennis analogies, it's like Andy Murray, really. If he was outside of that era, he probably would have won everything. But Stateman's 5-2. He was cut obviously after the Dublin Racing Festival, but Constitution Hill remains unbackable really at 1-4. But Stateman, he's just been such a force in Ireland. A beautifully straightforward horse. He just goes and he wins, and I'm looking forward to this rematch. But it's very hard to look past Constitution Hill. He was 9 lengths ahead of him at the festival last year, so he's going to have his work cut out for him. There's no doubt about it. But I would absolutely love to see Stateman do it.
We're sticking with you, Nicola, because you're a big Ballyburn fan. Willie Mullins with another big winner here. We actually have a comment in from David McCartney, Supreme or Ballymore. These are nice options to have, Nicola, for this horse.
Yeah, definitely. Ballyburn, I was excited about him before the Dublin Racing Festival. He lived up to the hype, stepped into that Grade 1 company in real style, beat Slade, Steele and Presley. And as a result, he's been so well backed for the Supreme, and he's just 5-4 now for that. And actually coming in betting without, by the way, Stateman. I'm getting 1 to 10 here.
Oh, golly.
That's probably my team. Probably still value. On to you, Don. Ballyburn. This was a race that I think Paul Townend was delighted from start to finish here.
Yeah, no, he's very good, Ballyburn, isn't he? And he keeps on improving. Interesting. And the bumper last year, he didn't run the champion bumper at Punchestown. He ran another bumper in which he beat Dancing City, actually, who will come on to know, I think, and Slade Steele. They ran Tullyhill against A Dream to Share in the champion bumper. And I think there was a feeling, didn't Patrick say somewhere afterwards, that maybe if they'd run Ballyburn instead of Tullyhill, he might have got a bit closer to A Dream to Share. So they've obviously held him in high regard from early. He was beaten by Firefox at Hatton's Grace Hurdle meeting, but as we've said many times, the Willie Mullins horses, that's when they're just getting going. He was very good at Leopardstown at Christmas, then really good there the last day. And he beat a very good horse in Slade Steele, a progressive horse too. And I know he was dropping down to 2 miles, and Slade Steele won the 2.5 mile hurdle, the Grade 2 over 2.5 on his previous run. He's probably better over 2.5, and you could see he kept on, but he couldn't get close to Ballyburn. And even over an extra half a mile, you'd imagine he wouldn't get closer to him. But yeah, look, it's going to be interesting to see how Willie Mullins shuffles his novice hurdlers now. But Ballyburn was so good over 2 miles that you wouldn't be against him over 2 miles anyway.
Yeah, and it's often apt that he will run horses that stay further in the Supreme. Mark, just Dancing City as well, we'd have a look at. This was a brilliant start to the festival. It was a big prize horse. I'm sure the bookies who reported to me the great business cheering him home, beats a better fancy stablemate, and another horse that you just wouldn't be underestimating for all that. Maybe some of those in behind disappointed.
Yeah, I think Willie Mullins mentioned that Albert Bart written all over him, this type of horse. Looks a strong stare. Thought it was a decent performance, but in terms of the level of form, this race, the Nathaniel Lacey versus the Tattersall's Ireland Novice, I thought the Tattersall's Ireland Novice was in a different league in terms of quality. This is a decent race, but I don't think, I think the Albert Bart is so open. There'll be a golfing quality required to win the Albert Bart this year versus the Supreme. Supreme-wise, I think Ballyburn is absolute banker material, and I can't see him switching to Ballymore or Bingham, to be quite honest. Willie, in fairness, he seems to be treating the Dublin Racing Festival with such respect that he is not identifying targets. It seems like in this scenario, even when we asked him, Willie, is it going to be Barry Bingham, is it going to be Supreme, he wasn't willing to kind of say either. He says today is the day, and it's given respect to the Dublin Racing Festival, but I think that's the way he'll go. And he's some hand in the Bartlett, Willie, between high class hero, and I think he's got 4 or 5 top in the betting for the Bartlett. So who's to say Dancing City will even be the selection of Paul Townend in the race? He's got serious depth.
Well, the mad thing, Mark, the horses that were first and second in the Lawlers at Naas, like neither of them was even at Leopardstown. These are two exceptional officers. I'm going to stick with you because we asked each of you for a standout. Three of us have actually gone for a horse who didn't win, which is a kind of a good approach to this. So we'll take a slightly left field, starting with you, Mark.
Yeah, I was going from an eye-catching perspective of one that really went up in my estimations. It was the Yellow Clay in the Donoghue Marquis Future Stars bumper. This race, the champion bumper at Cheltenham, the last 5 winners, the 3 winners at Cheltenham in the bumper and 2 seconds. So it's often a key piece of form. But we've just missed the VT at the very start of it there. This horse meets unmerciful trouble. Like it's dead and buried. And all of a sudden, he finds a second wind. It's his first start in a long time. He's stepping up in class and I loved how he comes home past last year's champion bumper winner, Dream to Share, albeit not beaten up. The enabler, there's Redemption Day. He's pushing him hard at the line. But the key point here is the interference he suffered. It was race ending completely. He should have been pulled up basically, and he still thunders home. Jeroboam Machan, the winner of that race, unfortunately out for the season, but that race is often season shaping for the champion bumper. And between you all and Noah, who ran really well there, he's around 12 or 14 to 1. And this horse, I wouldn't be shocked now if there's big improvement to come. It was a huge effort after a layoff, the Yellow Clay.
I was actually talking to a guy this morning that backed this horse for the Cheltenham bumper about an hour before the news came that Jeroboam Machan was out, and he was just hoping that his bookmaker didn't think he had inside information. He said he didn't. I actually wanted to back this horse before I even heard that news. Don, you have a very interesting one as well, and you've actually picked another. You've even picked another horse that was beaten here but took the eye in defeat.
Yeah, it's Majborough in the Spring Juvenile Hurdle, Johnny. It was his first run for Willie Mullins and JP McManus. He won his hurdle race. He's on the rail in the JP McManus colours, and he led from early. I think Danny Mullins said afterwards that his plan was to lead on Cargese, but Mark Walsh wanted to go on, and his jumping was very good. Majborough, he led at a good solid pace, and you see here, even when Cargese came and took it off him and Stormheart towards the outside, he still kept on well on the inside, and he's just about held on to third place from fast finishing bunting. There were a few eye catchers in this race, but I thought he did well on his first run for Willie Mullins, his first run for JP, his first run in Ireland, and his first run since last April. And this rate, like the Spring Juvenile Hurdle, I know Sir Gino he sets a high standard in Britain. He was very good in beating Burdett Road, and the times of that race, the sectionals all stack up. But this race, the Spring Hurdle, it's been a really good pointer to the Triumph Hurdle in the past, and including horses who've won it. Like it had obviously the 2 of the last 3 Triumph Hurdle winners have won it. Gala Marceau and Lossimet, they reverse placings from the Spring Hurdle last year, and even Farcla, Ivanovic, Gorbatov, they've all Tiger Roll, they were all beaten in the Spring Hurdle and come on to win the Triumph Hurdle. So you can see Majborough maybe improving quite a bit on this performance and being a big player in the Triumph Hurdle.
We'll stick with this race for my standout performance, and this was actually Ethical Diamond, who is a horse that was 50 to 1, I think, on the day. And you just see this horse running on here. I think Michael O'Sullivan rode there was a few bob for the horse the night before, because I felt that his run at Leopardstown at Christmas was all wrong, and he'd better ground here, but probably not ideal ground. This was a lovely run this is basically a horse with no hurdling experience. He had one experience of a washout race at Leopardstown at Christmas. Watch the way he stays on. And I was just saying before this race last week, as much as it was an interesting race in its own right, it was going to be a really telling prep for either the Fred Winter or the Triumph Hurdle, and I think that'll still be the case here. He will need to win a race before he can get a mark, but there should be time between now and Cheltenham to get one run more into him. We'll end with Nicola's selection, and Nicola, you've already mentioned the apple of your eye.
Yeah, at this rate, you're going to think I have a poster of him in my bedroom. My selection's really boring now, having seen what you guys have put up. Obviously, there was so much to take away from the festival. Stayman, Galvin and Sean, the ones you have mentioned. But for me, again, I'm just sticking with Ballyburn. He really is an outstanding novice hurdler. He did everything right. And the question now is, where is he going to go? But wherever he does go, I think he'll win.
Yeah, I think a lot of people won't disagree with that. Okay, we're going to move on to the weekend action. So we have Naas on Saturday, cracking cards, and we have Navan on Sunday. And the feature at Navan, I think we can safely say the feature. We have a couple of grade twos. The feature is the Boyne Hurdle, and bring this race up. This race takes place at 2:45, and we have start with you, Mark Boyle, and we have the dead 8 runners, which is fantastic for each way punters. But the age in this race. I heard a few kind of comments about some of the characters in this race during the week and comparisons to ourselves. But Sarah de Burley is 12, obviously the world hurdle, the Steers hurdle champion. Delta Work 11, Galvin 10. You know who you are, Will Haler, by the way. Beacon Edge is 10. But we do have Blazing Cal coming back, won the race last year. Hidden Valley Lake's only a 7-year-old. The Capo Glorianov without his chance as well. I actually think this race is more interesting than the Galmoy, which was kind of maybe our premier staying hurdle going into sort of Cheltenham. But Mark, where do you start with this?
Yeah, I don't know which of us is Blazing Cal, and I won't ask either because that suggests we're not on the scene too often and we can be hit and miss. But very good ability as well. Maybe we should take that as a plus. But yeah, look, Blazing Cal in terms of what he brings to the table for ability. If you thought you were going to get a peak Blazing Cal, he'd win this no problem. But it's a big question mark. And spoke to Charles Burns before Christmas. Seemed like still wasn't absolutely going smoothly for him. He hasn't been an easy horse to train by any means. But this race last season, the vibes were also negative for quite a while coming into it, and he turns up with a massive performance, backed as if defeat was out of the question and deliver. But I think Ashdale Bob, I'd hope if I get a bit more juice in the price, Johnny, I'd like a bit more than 7-2. Maybe you might get it on the day, but I think coming back to this trip is going to be a help to him. I don't know if he's an out-and-out 3-miler. He's just giving mixed signals, and this race, I do feel, with the benefit now of 2 runs under his girt this season, you could get a chance to have him at peak form. He's run well at Navan before. He likes this place. He's won around here. I just think he is one. A lot of these horses, you'd imagine, have targets further on the road at Cheltenham between your Delta Works, your Galvin, Sire de Burley. I think Gordon Eddy has warned you're not going to see the best of him this time around, Sire de Burley, until the spring further into it. So for me, Ashdale Bob is the play, but it's very tentative because if Blazing Cal turns up, all guns blazing, he's going to be very, very tough to beat.
Beacon Edge, Don, is the mount of Jack Kennedy. He's one of the horses we're going to look at here. He's been taking on a very good horse in Cashback, if my memory serves me right. Where do you start with this race, Don?
Yeah, look, it's a good race, the Boyne Hurdle. It often is. And remember Tiger Roll winning at a 25-1, not so long, that was long enough ago now. But look, it's good to see Blazing Cal back. Hidden Valley Lake, he's interesting, going back over hurdles after falling, and he was sent off as favourite for his chasing bow last time, and maybe we'll have a chat with Darragh about him. But I agree with Mark on Ashdale Bob. Actually, I think this is the race for him. He's it's 2 miles 5. He just doesn't get a strongly run 3 miles. Remember, he finished second in the 3 mile stairs hurdle at Punchestown a couple of years ago, and if he was going to get it, it was going to be at Punchestown. He doesn't get it at Cheltenham. When he finished third behind Sir Gerhard in the race at Punchestown on New Year's Eve, he made a pretty bad mistake at the third last flight. I thought he did well to get back into it and to keep on as well as he did to take third place behind Sir Gerhard and Devil's Coachman. And the Devil's Coachman actually finished second behind the Devil's Coachman in this race 2 years ago. He was only beaten ahead, and they came clear of Commander of Fleet, who went and won the Coral Cup at Cheltenham next time. So he's got a good level of form here. As Mark says, he goes well at Navan. I wouldn't be surprised if this had been his race that the Harringtons had earmarked for him from a fairway out. And at Gowran Park the last day, heavy ground and a Galmoy hurdle, that wouldn't have suited him at all. And he didn't travel badly until late on in the race. So I think this will be the race. I wouldn't be surprised if this is the race that they've targeted for him from very early in the season. And yeah, look, he's 9 years. He hasn't won. I don't think he's won since his novice days, but he's run some really good races into defeat in the interim. And I think 2 miles 5 at Navan, it should be ideal for him.
That's a strong case. Nicola, if we get odds from you on this, your thoughts, and also if we bring that in on the 10 up chase, we'll move on to that. It's a real cracker, the 345.
Yeah, I think, look, with the Boyne Hurdle, it's really hard to be bullish about any of them here. Blazing Cal edges it as favourite for a repeat win at 5-2, coming back from injury. He's a horse who's had his issues and pauses in his career and probably hasn't, fulfilled his potential because of that, but he is a horse with such ability. We've seen that when he came back to win it last year by 3 lengths, and then he's already in there for the Stayers Hurdle. Could be on the cards where he's 16-1 at the minute, but let's get this one done first to see where we stand. Ashdale Bob, I just thought, recent form, not convinced he's the value here at 7-2. Beacon Edge has had his moments in the spotlight, again winning this race, the Dreadmore, but we haven't seen the best of him recently either on his last 2 outings, and is 5-1 in there. Mark, what you said about Sire de Burley now has me a little bit worried, because that's kind of the one I thought would be the biggest threat to the favourite. He obviously had a huge season last year, winning at Cheltenham and Aintree before being beaten by Classical Dream at Punchestown. But I just think he's a little bit more appealing at the price, but of course he could need the run here. But it's a great lineup, and you really can't dismiss any of them. Decapo Glories 15-2, Hidden Valley Lakes 8-1, Galvin and Delta Worker 12 and 14-1 respectively.
What about the 10 up, Nicola? Because like the odds compilers had a tough enough job here. I'd say Paul Townend had a tough enough job actually deciding between his pair as well.
Yeah, he absolutely did. I caught up with him this morning before doing his blog, but this is a really hot race. And he did have a tough decision. He said there was very little between the front two. He's opted for Nick Rocket, which means, he will attract more money. He's the 11-10 favourite. He's a progressive horse, the beginner's chase at Fairyhouse that he ran and seems to have worked out very well. He wasn't beaten all that far. Then he stepped up since, beating Tactical Move. So there's a lot to like about this horse. And he's a horse certainly going the right way. But then there's a lot to like about Manila Cocooner too. Course and distance winner, which is really valuable tick here. Last time out, he's a grade 1 novice hurdler from a couple of years back. Second in the Albert Bartlett to the Nice Guys. So you look back and, he's a really class horse with a high level of form. And you can't overlook that either. Hence, there's not a huge amount between them in the price at 7-4. And I can't leave out American Mike either, who obviously missed the Dublin Racing Festival, but he's 7-1. He beat Factifile back in November at Navan. And if you draw a line through the Christmas performance, a reproduce of that, he has to have a chance as well.
The problem is, Nicola, you can't draw a line through it. This is the problem. The race happened. And Don, Nicola kind of sums it up there as well. You can't rule this horse out, but I was so disappointed American Mike having like that Factifile form obviously looks so good.
Yeah, like you thought that when he won his chase, when he beat Factifile in that chase, you thought chasing's going to be the making of him now, and you expected him or thought that he might kick on. But yeah, he's a bit in and out, isn't he, American Mike? I don't think there's a huge angle to this race. Looking forward to seeing Nick Rocket. I'm not surprised that Paul Townend has chosen to ride him. And I think he has to. Does he have to complete in order to qualify for the 4-miler if that's an option at Cheltenham? I think we had a similar scenario carefully selected a couple of years ago, and he made a pretty bad, I think it was at Naas, not at Navan, he made a pretty bad mistake at the fence before the turn in. If he hadn't completed, he wouldn't have qualified for the 4-miler. But look, Nick Rocket, he has really solid form. Like that beginner's chase that he finished 4th in at Fairyhouse and Atten's Grace Hurdle weekend, that was a hell of a beginner's chase. Corbett's Cross won it from 3-card Bragg and Monty Star. And Monty Star's gone on from there. He's gone on from there as well. He beat Tactical Move at Fairyhouse last time. So, yeah, look, I think he's the right favourite, and yeah, not surprising that he's a little way in front of Manila Cocooner.
Yeah, I'm actually with Manila Cocooner on as Nicholas says, course and distance. I think he stays very well, this horse. Danny's in superb form. He might get a bit of 2-1. What do you make of it, Mark?
I was waiting on Paul Townend really, because I probably was leaning towards Nick Rocket, but it was marginal. If Paul had gone with Manila Cocooner, I could have been swayed that way. But when I was leaning towards Nick Rocket anyway, and I see Paul on him, that's good enough for me. I'd be same as you. I can't forgive American Mike anymore. Been down that road before, and I think you have to be very, very forgiving. And I don't think Fevry Deschamps was disappointed what he showed at Christmas. So Nick Rocket wins here, I think, and take plenty of whacking, I think, in the National Hunt Chase too.
Yeah, and the owner of American Mike, Bective Studs, Noel Moran and Valerie, some very nice horses this weekend, including Riviere Detel, who takes on Mascada, among others, in Naas's Opera Hat race on Saturday, which is an absolute cracker. Before we hear from Darragh O'Keeffe, actually, we might just get you in on this, Don. You were very keen to talk about this race. It's the pivot race at Naas on Saturday. Just kind of goes to show as well how irrelevant grades are, because this is a very, very good race, and it's only a listed contest. Yeah,
it's a hell of a race, the Opera Hat Chase. It often is. It's often a really interesting race for mares like Riviere Detel. She's interesting. Allegoria de Vassy was pretty well beaten by her last time, so she's going to have to improve on that. She's going to get closer. Great to see Con O'Keeffe with solid approach. She was a really good winner of the Grade 2 Mares Chase at Cork on Hillyway Chase weekend, or Hillyway Chase Day, and Onsty in there as well. But I do like Mascada. I like her as a mare. Be interesting to hear what Darragh has to say about her now. But like, she won the Grand Annual at Cheltenham last season. She beat Allegoria de Vassy, she beat Dana Blue in that. Then Allegoria de Vassy beat her on her debut this season at Clonmel, which wasn't her running, so you have to allow her that. And I thought her run in the Hillyway Chase was a really good run, because she led from early, and even after she was passed around about the 4th last, I thought she kept on well to finish 3rd behind El Fabiola. She was beaten about the same distance as Dinah Blue was beaten by him in the weekend. But she's a Tim Duggan Chase winner, Mascata. It may be that she's going to be better over 2.5 miles, and it may be that this race will bring her forward for a tilt at the Mayor's Chase at Cheltenham over 2.5. But she gets all the allowances. Like, she's only got 10 stone 11. She's rated 151. Like, she's rated 11 pounds superior to Anstey, and she's getting £3 from her. And she's rated the same as Allegory Devassi, and she gets £8 from her. So the conditions of the race suit her. But it's her first run in a little while, so I wouldn't be surprised to see her step forward from this next time. But also, I think she's weighted, and she's got plenty in her favour as well in order to run a big race.
Brilliantly summed up. Let's hear from the man in the saddle. It's only one ride for DJ O'Keeffe tomorrow. He has more in Naas on, Navan, mixing Navan and Naas up, not for the first time this weekend. And Darragh spoke to me earlier.
She's in great form. I've seen her in Henry's. They all seem to be happy with her, and she won't mind the what's going to be tough conditions. And she ran well the last day in Cork against El Fabioli. He's going to be the hot favourite for the champion chase at Cheltenham. So we thought she ran well, and she looks great. So very much looking forward to riding her.
Yeah, Rachel Blackmore as well is suspended at the moment. You've picked up some nice rides at Navan. Just starting with ascending, would there be any sort of worry about this horse on the ground, Darragh? Obviously, handle soft.
Yes, exactly. I suppose he's ran at Leopardstown and Punchestown. His last couple of runs, but I definitely think Sunday is going to be obviously much heavier going than what he's ran on. So that'll probably be the only thing. But look, he's bringing very good form to the race, and he's ran some very good races, albeit still being a maiden. So he's ran to a good level, and if he runs his race, he'll be bang there.
What about Pastorale then, obviously up against it in the Apple Jade?
Yeah, Pastorale ran. Look, I rode her first time in Naas. She ran a nice race. Obviously because she'd ran in France, she had no rating, so she had to go straight into winners races, and she obviously ran well the last day in Thurles to Birdie or Burst, and obviously Willie's mare was looked like she was going to win that day. So but look, she's stepping up and trip on Sunday, and I'm sure tis fact finding mission, and to see where she is.
The Boyne Hurdle is an absolute cracker. Hidden Valley Lake, obviously well worth his place, taking on some proper horses. What do you make of it?
Yeah, Hidden Valley Lake, obviously he coming back over hurdles. He was a horse that was very highly thought of, I'd say, last season. Won a maiden hurdle in Naas, and then was very impressive in Cork, and he finished second in Clonmel in that 3 mile novice hurdle, and probably a bit disappointing in the Albert Bartlett, but he's a horse that has plenty of ability, and obviously it's a cracking race with Sire de Burley back in there, and plenty, like, it's all the runners you can make a case from. So look, it's good to see him back, and it'll be interesting to see where he stands now in that 3 mile stay in division.
And your other couple of rides as well, you've Tillochna and Alicante.
Yeah, Tillochna, I was second on her last year at Limerick. She was a bit unlucky. She kind of hung off the track a little bit with me, and Horse of Gardens beat her, and he went on and won a couple since, and I rode her in Cork. She ran well in a maiden hurdle, and was a bit disappointed then at Thurles and in Limerick on her last start, but definitely think she's capable of winning a race. And Alicante of Ross O'Sullivan's ran really well the last day in Punchestown. The winner of that race was second the other day, and probably would have been up in another couple of strides. So yeah, look, he has his chance. I think the track will suit him. He won't mind the ground, and I think he's a good solid chance.
Yeah, just before you go, see, obviously you weren't out of luck at the Dublin Racing Festival. Great to see a winner for Harry Rogers. You've had a couple of winners since. There was no gentleman's game at the DRF, and I know Mouse is talking about kind of saving the horse bit for Cheltenham. Have you any update? You must be really looking forward to riding him.
Yeah, I've sat in him a couple of times in the last couple of weeks. He looks great, and Mouse and everyone's very happy with him. So I know he's scheduled to do a few bits more work to do now, and that'll tell us where we are with him. But Yeah, look, as I said, he's a great horse to have a ride on, and we haven't seen him since the Charlie Hall, but look, he has his problems, but Mouse is a great man to get him there on the day, and hopefully he gets him at his peak at Cheltenham in March to be great.
He's in the mix anyway if you take out the favourite, I suppose.
Exactly, yeah. I think Galopin Des Champs is he's the reigning champion, and if he turns up on the day, he's going to be very, very hard to beat. He looks really special, and as you said, fast or slow is there as well. But I think we've as good as chance of any of them. If our lad turns up on the day, and as you said, it's a horse race, you wouldn't know what could happen.
Yeah, he's a class act, Darragh O'Keeffe. Just over to you, Don. We're going to have a Gold Cup here where Martin Brassell's going to rock up with the second favourite. Willie Mullins will have the favourite, obviously, but Mouse Morris comes there with a live each-way chance. But just in terms of the narrative beyond the horses themselves, makes it all the more interesting for me.
Oh yeah, like Mouse Morris, he's a phenomenal trainer. Like the success he's had with not that many horses down through the years. And interesting, when he won the Gold Cup at War of Attrition, he didn't run that calendar year. He ran at the Christmas Festival, and he didn't run again until he went to Cheltenham. So he'd been off the track for a little while as well. And in fairness, Mouse said a little while ago that he was going to go straight to Cheltenham. So I wouldn't worry about Gentleman's Game in terms of readiness or race fitness for a Cheltenham Gold Cup. And look, he's only had 3 runs over fences. This is the race again. Brave Man's Game coming into. This is the second last, is it? Yeah.
I know the fact on that, like they say, Brave Man's Game, he kind of hasn't really boosted form since, but I still get the feeling this was a good solid race on the day.
Oh, sure. Brave Man's Game ran a massive race in the
King George.
And that was after going to Haydock and running a Betfair Chase on bottomless ground. So it was a good performance by Gentleman's Game. And he was getting £6 from him this day. But you can see that. And Brave Man's Game, he made that mistake at the last. It wasn't that significant a mistake. It was significant in that it kind of halted momentum. He didn't really lose that much ground. And maybe it affected his concentration a little bit. But as you see there, Gentleman's Game was going away on the run to the line. That was over 3 miles. He was a classy horse. He finished 3rd behind Classical Dream and Ashtail Bob in that Punchestown champion stairs hurdle that we were talking about earlier on. And look, we just don't know how good he could be. He's only had 3 runs. That was a career best performance, his last run. And if he improves on that, and there's every chance that he will, given he's so lightly raced, yeah, look, you can definitely see him being a Gold Cup player.
What sort of odds is he, Nicola?
16-1, Johnny.
I don't mind having a few quid on that, Mark. You might even get 20s on the day. And just a word on Darragh O'Keeffe as well, Mark. He's that nice kind of bracket of up-and-coming jockey who's loads of ability.
It's gas you asked me, Johnny, because I was going to make the point. I was very, very taken with his knowledge of the form up there in that conversation. Like, I mean, you talk about even horses in the very, very low grades there, and he's reeling off run after run after run. And that rings true to the way you see him riding as well. He's very sharp, tactically aware. Pace-wise, I feel if he's in front and they're going at a steady tempo, you're loving it when he's on your side. He's strong, but he's athletic. I think in terms of maybe the next guys that could break into the very, very top, I think he's right there knocking on the door. Look, you have to carve that out over a period of time, but he rides a lot. He's very busy. He's very hungry. And I was just taken by that conversation there, just how, the level of detail. He's a sharp guy now, and I was delighted to see him win on Lord Erskine. That was super result with Harry Rogers, and you can see how emotional he was afterwards. To me, kind of highlighted the weekend nearly, seeing a guy like that, what it meant to him. That was bang up there.
100%. He's had a couple of winners since a Punchestown Ferry House, and he wears his heart in his sleeve, which is great to see. And I actually did a feature with Mouse Morris for the Irish Field, for Mark's paper, for the Irish Field Cheltenham mag coming out, and very interesting what he says about Brave Man's Game and the growing pains and what that has entailed with him training wise. That's kind of why he avoided Leopardstown, but he will come there fresh on the day. Right, coming up, we're going to talk Cheltenham because we all have special bets on the way, and our actual naps at the moment for Cheltenham coming up. Thanks for sticking with us so far. We're just over a month out now. We'll go to you, Don. So we had to come up with the Cheltenham. It's funny, I haven't had an ante-post bet, and I'm going with a horse that a lot of people are going to disagree on here. But before we get to my horse, who has a bit to prove, Don, you've gone for a very interesting one here.
Yeah, Monty Star of Henry de Bromhead, his only entry at Cheltenham actually is in the Brown Advisory Chase, and I think that's the race for him. This was a really good run the last day against 3-card Bragg, when his jumping here, Johnny, that was the taking part. Rachel Blackmore gave him a super ride, just sat in behind, allowed 3-card Bragg go on. In fairness, 3-card Bragg didn't jump that well, but Rachel was able to allow him on to start. She just was able to keep on filling him up. He'd jump the fence, he'd make ground on 3-card brag, and she'd take him back. And he said that he stayed on really well to win. He finished third in that beginner's chase that we mentioned earlier on, the one in which Nick Rocket finished fourth behind Corbett's Cross and 3-card brag. He reversed places with 3-card brag the last day. And he's just that type of horse who he seems to have the mix of class and pace and stamina required for a Brown Advisory chase. He's a half brother to Mana Lee, who also raced in the Barry Maloney colours, who finished second behind Presenting Percy in, I think it was the RSA chase or Royal Sun Alliance chase at the time.
That's right.
But it's the same race, and he's a 7-year-old, good age for the race. He was a good hurdler last season. He won that Grade 3 hurdle at Clonmel at Hidden Valley Lake, finished second, and he beat his stable companion. He was a lesser fancied of the two Henry de Bromhead runners that day. Now, he was pulled up in the Albert hurdle last year, which is not ideal, but horses have been pulled up in an Albert Bartlett and gone on to win the Brown Advisory chase. Boston's Angel did. I think Blackline did as well. So I just think he's a coming horse, and yeah, I think he could be a big player in the race.
Over to you, Mark Boylan. You've actually managed to go with a horse who runs on Sunday in Ireland.
Yeah, well, look at it. My original thinking was I was going to give you a double. I thought just shy of 6-1 with Ladbrokes Ballyburn and Fact to File was very, very solid. But Fact to File, just this uncertainty as to whether he go Brown Advisory or Turners, I just don't want to be going that direction, that in mind. But I do think the two of those, wherever they run, will win. And I thought that was a fair price for the most. But brighter days ahead. I've been head of the fan club for a long time now. You're probably sick of listening to me on her, but out this weekend in the Apples Jade Mares Novice Hurdle at Navan. I just love this mare. I know the absolute bare limit of her form at the moment is not going to suffice, but I just don't think she's doing a stroke here in front even. I just think she's riddled with ability, and Jade de Grugy was impressive at Feria. Dicer Dinos was impressive across the water too. They set a decent benchmark, but I just feel this filly could be the X factor to be at, and we know her pedigree is out of this world. Mighty Potter, we've seen Caldwell Potter sold the other day, Indiana Jones, French Dynamite. Like, she's bred to be nothing other than a very, very good horse. And I think in a typical year, the mare's Novice Hurdle, she take the world of beating, and even in this year, I think she's going to be absolutely bang there. Ladbrokes are 7-2, giant best price around. I think she'll win this weekend for sure, and I'd be very disappointed if she's not banging on the door big time in Cheltenham.
Yeah, that's an amazing family you mentioned there. That dam is just, I can't remember the dam's name off the top of my head, but it's amazing performance with the horse on the track, one of whom was sold for, as Mark said, $750,000 the other day. My horse is actually Marine Nationale. I'm going to put my faith in Barry Connell when he says he feels it was the ground. I'm not entirely convinced it was. I know. I'm gonna go Marine National on the arc just because instead of getting even money now, you're getting 5-2. If it's the ground, I think he'll be an even money shot, or he should be an even money shot at Cheltenham if we get decent ground. I think he's still a splendid talent. So I'm going to go with Marine National as my horse at the revised odds for Cheltenham at 5-2. I still feel he's the best talent in the race. Of course, the first time I ever backed him was the weekend, so I'm trying to get my money back. But Nicola, we'll go with yours as well. Let It Rain.
Yeah, I feel like I'm betraying the country here by going with the British tip, but yeah, I'm looking no further than Dan Skelton's yard. I'm actually going over to his yard next week for a trip and to have a look at the horses and film some content. So looking forward to seeing that. And Let It Rain, who's been a little bit forgotten about in there in the champion bumper at 20-1. One thing we do know is that she's definitely going to be running, and that's half the battle. And when I spoke to Dan Skelton earlier in the week, he said, she's in great form. He's really happy with her. She obviously had a bit of a break since she won at Ascot over Christmas, but she'll come here and she gets weight off the boys, and I think it's worth a little each way squeeze.
We're pretty much finished, so we've given you 4 challenges. Mark, I'll just get your review very, very briefly on the Opera Hat.
It's actually my nap of the weekend, Johnny. Muscada, big fan of hers. And
lovely.
I think the first day you saw her this season, she was needing to run badly. Decent run behind El Fabiola. And we've seen what Phil Dorr made in the meantime as well, the runner-up. But you get the feeling her season has been totally geared towards the spring. And the other two angles in the race that I really make her appealing here, Allegory de Vassi just has not been convincing to me. I don't like her finishing effort. She let me down with a bang last year in the Mare's Chase, and I just haven't been forgiven of that. And Riviere de Tell, they seem to think that going right-handed was a preference for her last time. Back going this direction again. I think there's so much in Muscada's favour.
Yeah, so check out the Racing TV website for my selections of the weekend as well. We've gotten brilliant opinion. Thanks to everyone for coming on the show, and thanks to Ladbrokes for sponsoring, and a special thanks as well to Darragh O'Keeffe for doing that interview on short notice earlier. Remember to gamble responsibly over the weekend, and there's plenty of time between now and Cheltenham as well to study the form. And just after the Dublin Racing Festival, regardless of who was training and the various winners, we saw some special performances, and we have so much to look forward to ahead of Navan and Naas and Cheltenham. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.
On the Wire, in association with Ladbrokes.